Okay, now it's green. Sorry about that. I may have flicked it, putting it on, or talking about you. Joshua chapter 4. In your Bibles on Joshua chapter 4. And like my wife said, today is Pearl Harbor Day. You know, and it was 81 years ago. Can you guys believe that? It was 81 years ago that the Japanese came and bombed Pearl Harbor. And the USS Arizona, of course, is there as a memorial for that bombing. And of course, as she explained, we were able to go to one of the memorial gardens that's up in Phoenix. And it was a pretty cool thing. They have light poles that are in the shape and the size of the ship. So it does an outline of it, and then it does the circles that you see when you look at the picture. And then it does some of the fantail where the lights go like this down some of the memorial gardens that are inside this outline. And it comes on every night at sundown, and then is on all night, and then turns off in the day. And they had a brochure that had a picture of it, and that was pretty phenomenal. You know, to be able to be inside that's not a very big ship. You know, since that was a life-size replica, you know, the outline of that's not a really big ship. And how many sailors died on that ship? It was a couple of hundred, wasn't it? And so, and of course, it being Pearl Harbor Day, there were some other activities going on in Phoenix, and we were watching the news this morning while we were getting ready to check out of the hotel room. And there's this young reporter that was interviewing the lady that was doing the Pearl Harbor Day festivities. And the question that she asked and the way she asked it kind of made me angry. Now, it may just be, you know, how these younger reporters speak, but she's like, why are we still observing this day? And, you know, and I heard that, and I was like, and I was angry. I can't imagine how the person who's invested her life, at least for the last couple of months, getting this thing all set up, all the stuff that was going on. I mean, she had the governor there. She had all these high-ranking officials going to be speaking. She had like the only World War II veteran alive today there. I mean, they had one that was at Pearl Harbor. They had one survivor. She said used to be the streets were lined on both sides with survivors, and now they could only find one and brought him. And I can't imagine how she felt being asked that question. Why is it still important to observe this day? And so I got to thinking about that after I was done being angry. And in Joshua chapter 4 and verse number 1, we have another memorial. And almost the same question is asked in it. So we'll start in verse number 1 to get the context, and we'll read down, and Lord willing, my voice will hold out until the end of the preaching. If not, Jordan, I have just verses here. You'll have to fill in the rest. Okay? Can you preach extemporaneously? I guess that's a no. You didn't have to have extemporaneous preaching? That just means on the spot. That means here's your verse, you preach.
Nothing official, no class, but just...
Okay. So can you? You'll look at my verses and you'll be able to get the whole idea, right? All right, as I'm reading the verses, you tell me if you can preach this passage. I'm going to read the verses. You tell me if you can preach the passage. Ready? All right, starting verse number 1. And it came to pass when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, Take ye 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe a man, and command ye them, saying, Take ye hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones. And ye shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place, where ye shall lodge this night. Then Joshua called 12 men, whom he had prepared of the children of Israel, out of every tribe a man. And Joshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and take you up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according unto the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in time come, saying, Why do we have to observe these stones?
It's a rock.
Why do we have to observe this day? Some young upstart comes up on the news and says, Hey, what mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer them, that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so as Joshua commanded, and took up the 12 stones out of the midst of the Jordan, as the Lord spake unto Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with him into a place where they lodged, and laid them down there. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priest which bare the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there unto this day. So that's as far as we're going to read in this passage, because this covers the idea that we're talking about. So why is it that the children of Israel, when they saw the stones. Now, I think I just preached on this passage not too long ago, maybe around Memorial Day. This is one of my passages I go to on Memorial Day. But these are 2 sets of 12 stones. There's one that's going to be set up in Gilgal, in the place of the lodging, and there's one that's set up in the midst of the river. And so when they look, if you look at the River Jordan, when the banks are flooded, can you see 12 rocks? No. But what mean ye by the 12 stones here in Gilgal? What's this pile of stones for? And that would be a reminder to the fathers to tell the children the story of when God stopped the River Jordan and the Ark of the Covenant and the children of Israel walked across the Jordan on dry ground. Just like God opened up the Red Sea for Moses, God stopped the Jordan River for Joshua. So what mean ye by these stones? Why do we have these stones stacked up here in the middle of Gilgal? Why are they here? And then it says, unto this day. All right? So when was Joshua written? When was Joshua written? Was it while Joshua was alive? Don't we read about Joshua's death in Joshua? So at least the time is past Joshua. The writings are past Joshua's life. So to this time may not mean to today, but it certainly means until well after Joshua's life. What mean you by those stones? What mean you by those stones? And they were able to tell the story. Now, why is it we still observe Pearl Harbor Day? I mean, that was 81 years ago. Nobody in this room is 81 years old. And if you are 81 years old, then you were born right around Pearl Harbor Day. You weren't in it. You were born around it. And so for the one guy that showed up at this ceremony up in Phoenix He's 81 at least, plus 18. So how old is that? Is that 99? He's at least 99. Ask that man that same question. Well, let me tell you why. We were in Hawaii and we're minding our own business. And out of the blue, Japan attacks us and bombs Pearl Harbor, sank a whole bunch of ships, killed a whole bunch of United States military men and women. And if I remember right, it was unprovoked. America had nothing to do with the war that was going on over in the Far East and in Germany and in England. We had nothing to do with the war until, unprovoked, Japan comes over and bombs Pearl Harbor. I feel like that's a bad move. I feel like that was, you poked a bear. Well, not even a bear, because that's kind of likened to Russia. You poked an eagle. And I don't think poking an eagle is a wise move either. Did we not come back and retaliate? Is Japan, I bet you Japan now celebrates, well, the day we poked the eagle day. We shouldn't have done it. We have Hiroshima, Nagasaki. We probably have a whole lot more people on the island of Japan had we not bombed America. But ask that man why we still observe Pearl Harbor Day. Why do we still observe things that happened in our past? Not just in America, but even as Christians, why do we stop and observe these special days? Well, it's so that we can stop and remember. Remember the sacrifices of those men and women for our freedom, unprovoked. And then the sacrifices of the thousands after that. When we did get into now it's going to be World War II. I just feel like sometimes when we ask a question like that, maybe we ought to be a little more sensitive in the way that we ask it. Why do we have to celebrate Christmas? Why do we still celebrate Easter? Why do we celebrate these days? Why do we celebrate Veterans Day? Why do we celebrate Memorial Day? Why do we do these things? Patriot Day, 9/11. Why do we do those things? Well, if we don't study history, we're bound to repeat it. And so I believe for us, it's good for us to look at these memorials. And again, just as Joshua mentions here in this, the setting of the 12 stones, and you know what, asking the question here, what mean you by these stones? It sets up the answer, the telling of the answer. Now in this, it was some great thing that God had done. Now, was Pearl Harbor a great thing? You know, that's one of the things we learned in this preacher's fellowship. That brother I told you that had the heart attack or the open heart surgery and then the stroke and then several strokes after that and died 2 times in the midst of that. You know what he preached on? Romans 8:28. It's all good. It just takes us a while to get there, doesn't it? It's all good. He said, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. It's all good. And so we would think Pearl Harbor is not a very good thing, but there's something good in that. We may not understand it here in this life, but we will. It brought a nation together, didn't it? The 9/11 attacks, didn't that bring a nation together? I mean, we even had Democrats voting to go to war. That's unheard of. Right now, I think we had Chuck Schumer standing up in the White House. Yes, let's go kill them. Now, a couple of years later, he was like, we need to get out of this. And I'm tired of this, but, you know, at the time, that brought a nation together. We need to remember what God does. And memorials and observing days like today is a good way for us to start that conversation. A young person comes up, what is December 7th? What is Pearl Harbor Day? What happened on that day? Well, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened. Why do we have 12 stones stacked up in Gilgal? Well, let me tell you what happened. So just something for us to think about on this Pearl Harbor Day. It's not a deep thing. It's not a long thing. It's just something for us to think about. Make sure that when we ask questions like that, let's be a little sensitive. Definitely don't ask the woman that's putting on the whole thing, why do you still do this? I don't think you can do that on live TV, but maybe after the interview was over. All right, questions, comments about